Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. In this video, we'll be taking a look at my Rhinar list before we see all of the new cards from heavy hitters. This is a Rhinar list I've been playing for a little bit, I've been testing it out, and I do think it is where I want it to be for the moment. Of course, heavy hitters will change up the Brute meta, hopefully giving Brute some brand new cards and even a few new heroes, which I'm excited to see. But with all that said, let's get started with the video. Starting it off with the hero, Rhinar, Reckless Rampage. Most people know what he does. We'll just go over him real quick. 40 health, 4 intellect, basic brute. Whenever you discard a card with 6 or more power during your action phase, which just means during your turn, if you discard a 6, you intimidate. Intimidate is you can have target hero banish a card face down at random, and then at the end phase they get it back. It is target hero. You're not going to target yourself because it's fully random, and you don't want to do that. So, Rhinar, really, really cool. Personally, he is my favorite brute. I don't really like Leviah that much. The Shadow Brute cards seem a little weird to me. I think she's fine, and I do think that she is decent in the meta right now, but I think that just if I had to pick a brute to play, it would be Rhinar. So that's why we're going with Rhinar instead of a Leviah deck. Moving over to the equipment, starting with the weapon. I haven't been the biggest claw fan. I normally play Romping Club. However, for the way this list works, it's built on a lot of 2-for-6s, or it's built on a lot of 2-card hands, pretty much. So I don't really need the club for those 1-card hands, because we're trying to play 2 strong 2-card hand crackbacks, or just like full blocking. So having a 1-card hand isn't the best thing we could be doing, which is why we're on the Mandible Claws for those high roll potential of the Bloodrush Bellows. This isn't like other Rhinar lists where a lot of other Rhinars play a ton of these aggressive go again cards. We're not on many. In fact, I don't even think we're on a single one. If I remember correctly, yeah, we're not on a single go again attack. So claws are that go wide potential with the Bloodrush Bellows, because we are just trying to play these big, strong attacks. For the helmet, we only have Scowling Fleshbag, no Crown of Providence in this list at all. Scowling Fleshbag is definitely the stronger of the two. That Intimidate can alleviate so much pressure on you, especially on hands where you want to keep most of the cards, which are those strong Bellow turns, those strong high Intimidate turns, or even if you get there towards the end of the game, setting up an Alpha Rampage hand, letting you keep that 1 extra card, since you're throwing a card into banish for your opponent they can't attack you with, is just oh so strong. This is one of the best helmets Brute has access to. For the chest piece here, we have Heart and Cross Strap. Tunic is also in this deck, but for your faster matchups, you'll need to go with the cross strap. I have the cross strap here because I'm more likely to play this, in my opinion, compared to Tunic. But if there are matchups that you know are going to go late, things like Guardian, things like Illusionist, you're going to be playing the Tunic over it. But for a matchup like Ninja that's going to be over real fast, I'd rather have the consistent 2 resource of the cross strap there. We are Brute. We are playing Gambler's Gloves. I'm hoping that maybe we somehow get a glove that can replace this in heavy hitters, but it's probably not going to happen. This card should just have Brute stapled on it instead of generic, because it is the only class that plays it. Simply put, because of your best shoe, Scab Skin Leathers. This is the only shoe in the game, I believe, that is 2-block battle worn. So it's a guaranteed 3 health. The ability, of course, as a once per turn action to roll a 6-sided die, and regain action points equal to half rounded down. The only reason Gambler's Gloves are here is so in case we roll a 1, we can re-roll it. In some matchups, mainly Prism, you're going to be rolling these a lot to clear auras, and in some other matchups, you'll be using them to try to get strong 2 big attack hands so you can push through a lot of damage. But other than that, these are here just for 3 block. Moving on to the rest of the equipment before we talk about the main deck, I already talked about Findle's Spring Tunic. This is probably the most consistent chess piece in the game. It's 1 free resource every 3 turns. It's for those longer games because if games are going at least 6 turns, you'll get the same, if not more, value out of having this over the Hearten cross strap, as well as we are playing 3 Arcane Barrier into your most arcane damage matchups. Rune Blades, you'll probably end up blocking a bit, so you don't need the Gambler's Gloves all too much to roll the Scabs. You'll probably end up rolling it in those matchups maybe once to just see what happens. But you should be trying to play a more consistent game in those matchups. And in the matchups you need 3 AB, which right now is just Kano. Yeah, you'll probably be rolling your shoes, but I wouldn't want just 2 AB with the Skullhorn. I think 3 is definitely more important there, since if you only bring 2, there are things like Lesson in Lava and Sonic Boom are guaranteed to hit you, even though we are on Oasis, but I'll talk about those later. And then finally, Skullhorn is here really just for the Wizard matchup, just so we can get an extra 2 Arcane Barrier, as well as the Scowling Flesh Bag is not very good into those Wizard decks that don't play any attacks. So it's just here for the 2 Arcane Barrier. Moving on, let's talk about the main deck. I wanted to try to have a good mix of offense and defense. I don't really like those aggressive brute style decks. I like the slower 2-card hand based ones. And you can see that there are only 2 cards in this deck that you're playing on your turn, that you want to be playing on your turn. Obviously, Wrecker Romp, Reckless Swing are just good blues that actually make you discard. Those will be Alpha Rampage and Blood Rush Bellow, and you won't even be playing Alpha Rampage most of the time, just from the nature of the way the card works, so it's really just the Blood Rush Bellow. Most of the attacks in this deck are just 2 or 3 cost for a massive amount of damage. We're going to start with the attacks, because those are a little easier to explain. Alpha Rampage, the Rhinar spec, 3 cost, 9. When you attack with it, discard a random card, and it itself intimidates. This can rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. You'll want this towards the end of a game to get a large burst to finish your opponent off if you can't Reckless Swing them out or chip them through with a Bellow turn. One of the strongest cards in the deck. I wouldn't play Rhinar without it. Command and Conquer, even though it's not a brute card, it doesn't pick up our brute attack buffs. It is just a 2 for 6. There is no pummel in this list. You could play it if you wanted to, but you can also, threaten that pummel in your arsenal. Do you have it? Do you not have it? You don't have it because it's not in the list, but your opponent does not know that. As well as this card is just insane. If you don't own it, I say this in every video that I talk about CNC. This is one of the best cards. If you don't own them, I would play Humble. I would not play any other option. Erase Face is okay. Humble is the best one. None of the other ones are good enough to main deck. Humble or maybe Erase Face, but Humble is the best if you don't own CNCs. Or you can just play another brute attack if you wanted to, but try to have it have 6 power. Pack Hunt is a 2 for 6. It just has an Intimidate on it. It's pretty nice. Skullcrack gives us a resource if it's discarded at random, mainly going to be for our Blood Rush Bellow turns. It's the perfect discard to do. 3 red and 3 yellow Smash Instincts, because an Intimidate for 3 isn't bad, considering we have an Intimidate for 2. The reds are nice, since into the Prism matchup these can pop under a single parable, and 3 for 7 is definitely a better number than a 3 for 6 because of the breakpoint. Smash with Big Tree is a card that a lot of people don't like because of this no block. However, for what this deck wants to be doing, Smash with Big Tree is an insane card, and I would consider it in most of your normal Rhinar decks, just because a 2 for 7 is extremely strong, and we even have a 2 for 8 swing big. If it doesn't hit, the defending hero makes a quicken. That's fine, because they spent either 3 cards or like 2 cards in an equipment, so they're not going to be able to use that quicken right away, at least to the fullest effect. They'll either have to wait an entire turn, which means you get a full 4 card to 5 card hand, or they'll play something small and give it go again, in which they didn't set up a huge turn on you, which is great. Or they took damage from it, which you also like. Beast Within, this is another card I don't like. I've seen so many people die to this card. In this list, it's a little better, since the only ways we'll really be discarding it are off a bellow, and it's very good to discard off a bellow, since it can guarantee you have an attack to play after your claws. The only problem then will just be drawing some blues off the bellows 2 cards. But Beast Within is another nice discard target. Try to not discard it with Alpha Rampages, because when you're playing it, you really won't have a follow-up after. And I guess it's okay to discard off Reckless Swing, since it can replace itself and give you more block. But you will take some damage, and when you're blocking with Reckless Swing, it's probably going to be towards the end of the game, so you might not have the health if you have to banish multiple cards. Riled Up is my personal favorite yellow Brute 6. It's a 3 cost, 6 power. If you've discarded a card of power 6 or more this turn, it gets +1. Pretty nice to play off of your Bloodish Bellow, and it is in general just my favorite. The last attack in the deck is the only blue 6, Wrecker Romp. You have to play 3 of it, no matter the Brute you are playing, because it is a blue pitch, and it is a 6 power. Looking at some of the non-attacks in this deck, we play 7 copies of Barraging Beatdown, 3 red, 1 yellow, and 3 blue. All of these are extremely playable. The best Intimidate effect in the game, since it is an Intimidate as well as an attack buff. On your kill turns with Alpha Rampage, Barraging Beatdown is a key card to push damage through, and as well as in Bloodrush Bellow turns, it can be a card that you can just play for free to get it out of your hands. You don't randomly discard it to the Bellow, and then you get a free Intimidate with it as well, and if you intimidated them enough, they can't remove the damage pump. So it's a very good one. Bloodrush Bellow, the key Brute card. This is probably the best Brute card in the game. 1 cost, yellow, block 3. As additional cost, discard a random card. Your Brute attacks get +2 this turn, and if the card you discarded has 6 or more power, which every attack in this deck has 6 power, so just don't discard a non-attack, only hit an attack. You draw 2 cards, and it gains Go Again. Extremely good. Turns on your claws, since you discarded a card, lets them come in for 5 apiece. Super, super strong. Clearing Bellow is a card that some Brute lists weren't playing, but for this list, I thought it was just a good include for a blue. Sand Sketch Plan, Rhinar's other specialization, really doesn't do much, so just a free Intimidate I thought was a little better. High Roller is Clearing Bellow, but better. We're never going to have the 6 effect in pretty much any situation ever, so the double Intimidate doesn't ever happen, but it's still just a better Clearing Bellow. So if we're playing that, we probably should be playing this. And then 3 Warmongers. This can just be any other blue pump if you want to, but this is just an extremely strong card. It can mess you up if you play this and your opponent passes and you have this weird mixed hand, but for a lot of matchups, they'll come at you with something, you block, and then you just do a 2-card hand and set up an arsenal. So Warmongers helps you slow your opponent down to the pace that you want to be playing. The last few cards in the deck are defense reactions. 3 Fate Foreseen and 3 Sink Below, just because we're a slower deck. We want to play on the defensive more. These are just great arsenals to help defend yourself. And then finally, 2 copies of Reckless Swing, since it's just the best Brute card, other than Bloodrush Bellow and Swing Big, and Actually, yeah, it's the third best brute card. Reckless Swing, super good. 0 cost, 4 block D-React. You have to discard a random card to play it, which makes it a little awkward, but it's 2 damage on an opponent's turn. This is how you win most games, is by either pitch stacking a Reckless Swing or finding it at a key time. Makes your opponent's starting life pretty much just 2 less. This card is a keeper. We're only on 2 because of its weird number and because of its weird condition to need to discard to block. But other than that, it's just a really nice blue that we probably will be playing in Brute until the end of time. Finally, let's discuss the remaining cards in the inventory for this list. The only red we have is 3 Oasis Respite. This is for those pesky wizard matchups. Because we are mainboarding 6 red D-Reacts, 3 of these will be coming out for the 3 Oases. We'll keep the Reckless Swings because they are blues. And then the other 3 slots will be filled by either 3 Reincarnates just for another attack, or 2 Reincarnates and the 1 Arg Smash so you can break their potions. But do be careful, they can go in response and, kill you there, because this does cost 3 and you're also spending a yellow, so you only have 2 cards in your hand at that point. But you have some options there. Just bring in the Oases instead of one of these sets, and then also cut the other set into your wizard matchups. I'm going to skip the 2 1-ofs for now. I'm going to talk about the 2 3-ofs. Reincarnate is a really, really good card. Not main board worthy, though. I think it's really only too strong inside of matchups that will try to fatigue you. Or slower matchups. I think it's pretty hard to fatigue Rhinar. Most of the time, this will be a card that will just come in as extras. I feel like this is a deck that you shouldn't be worried if you're playing more than 60. Especially into things like Bravo. You should be going up most of these, to be honest. Remembrance, Reincarnates. Obviously, you're on Tunic, so you can consider Oasis if you wanted. And that all you got could be another nice D-React for that matchup, just to have something to block with from Arsenal. But the main reason for this card is if it's randomly discarded, it goes in the bottom of your deck. So you're not losing cards to your discard costs from your Bellow or your Rampage. Could be pretty nice, again, in the slower matchups. Other Illusionists, obviously Guardians. I suppose if you know they're playing a slower Brute game, Brute Mirrors, it could be okay. But mainly for those Illusionists and Guardians, who are going to be your slightly tougher matchups, I feel. That all you gots are mainly here for the aggro matchups. You bring this in versus ninjas, and it just recycles itself. There are some other times where it can be okay, but it's mainly here just for those fast matchups. Like I said, you can bring this in against Guardian if you want to, because it is a D-React you can put in your arsenal, and it could be nice. That one's up to you, but I do think this card is pretty much I wouldn't say staple for Rhinar, but it's definitely found a home in Rhinar sideboards. Simply put, because of its replacement effect, letting you see more cards, dig for those reckless swings, as well as dig for 6s or blues to just take your turn right after. Moving on to the last 2 cards. Arc Smash, I touched on a little bit. This is mainly here for the Mechanologist matchup. You really only need 1 because 1 should win you the game. Mainly for OG Dash, this card's more important, but if I'm playing against something like Max, I would still consider it, since this card can come down and just break a few hyperdrivers. Against Dio, I would play it as well. Against Dio, I think you're shifting into the fatigue. Oh, another card. That or you got's really good in a Mechanologist. That too. Mainly dashes because of the pistol, and I would probably also bring it in versus like Max and stuff, since they're going to be on Blaster sometimes. So, do consider that versus Mech. But this is mainly here for Mech, because Mech can also be a pretty hard matchup. Into Mech, you'll try to fatigue them. Vessin, you should swamp him. his attacks don't do as much damage as yours, and you can just set up on him. Max might go for a nitromechanoid plan with the hyperdrivers, so Arc Smash can disrupt it a little bit. And you'll probably try to fatigue him too, so just go up in numbers. And then versus both dashes, definitely bring this in. Just go up numbers, to be honest. Bring in that or your Gots and Arc Smash. Probably not Remembrance versus Mech, since you want your cards to block, but really, really strong. And then finally, one Remembrance. This is just here for like Illusionist and Bravo. Decks that are gonna try to go late with you. Just shuffle in 3 key attacks back, shuffle in probably a blue if you blocked with it, or just like CNC, Rampage, Swing Big or something. Just like these big red attacks that they have to block. Really, really good card at doing that. So, with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm glad to be back to doing a bit of CC content before the holidays. I wanted to get this one out since I've been having a ton of fun playing this list. Next week, we will be back. I don't know if we're going to be doing a Flesh and Blood video, but we'll have to wait on that one. There's another card game that I've been playing that I think's really good. I might want to talk to you guys a bit about, but that's for next week. I hope you guys have a good Christmas, a Merry Christmas to you all, because I'm recording this on a Monday. So actually next week will just straight up be Christmas, I believe. So Merry Christmas. You'll probably be seeing this on Thursday, so Christmas will be a few days away. And I'll just see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.